Welcome to Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, codename Phantom Troublemaker.
Go, Bobby.
Oh, hi, I'm Bobby Nash. I'm the co-host for this week. I'm so happy to be here. I am codename Little Leadfoot. The little is ironic now. It was, when I was first given it, it was apt. It is more ironic now.
And take a look. It's in a book. It's your Cobra intern, codename Legion Cub.
Noel is on maneuvers in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. this week and could not join us. But we have award-winning Bobby Nash in his stead. Bobby, before we get rolling here, let's talk a little bit about your history with G.I. Joe. Now, we've done G.I. Joe panels together before. We did one, and I think it was Toylanta years ago.
And actually, the last time you and Noel and I did one was at Dragon Con, and we have this great photo.
That's right.
Of us being arrested by the Joes.
I should have put that picture up, but I did not prepare because there was so much other stuff to put together. So, Bobby, tell us a little bit about your G.I. Joe history.
Oh, I don't remember which of these came first exactly because they happened around the same time. I am a child of the 70s, so I have very vivid memory of, because I was young, I was really young. I have very vivid memories of walking into Kmart with my mother, and I would beeline to the toy section. And I remember the very first time I walked around the end cap onto the toy aisle, and all of a sudden there is this giant explosion because all the Joes were, like on a big aisle. And it was just the coolest thing I recall ever seeing. And just begging my mother to let me get some of these. So I had a few Joes over the years. But I don't remember if that happened first or if seeing the commercials for the comic books happened first. I don't remember which happened first. But I remember being very enamored of the animated commercials for the comics, for the Marvel comics, which made me go pick up the Marvel comics because they were just, the commercials sold it. They were so cool. How could I not? It was right up my wheelhouse. So those were my first introductions. And then, of course, when the miniseries came, I was hooked. So, yeah.
Well, and that's not unusual for our generation to not be sure where it came in. Did I read a comic first? Did I see the comic commercials first? Did I see the cartoon first? Was the cartoon the comic commercials? I don't know. Like, if you're not a nut and like constantly following up on this stuff online, it is kind of hard to place it. Because when we first started doing the show, I don't know if I could have told you really with any certainty what my first thing would have been. I remembered seeing the figures in Eckerd or Revco or whatever it was and getting some of the figures. But now I'm thinking there's a good chance I saw the animated commercial for the comic book first.
I remember it was those first because we moved before the miniseries happened. So I remember we were in the new
house. It's good to have that as a place marker.
And I remember our house in Doraville when I was a kid. I remember that's where I got my first toys. That's where I read the comics. That's where I first saw because the commercials made me know there were comics to go get the comics. And I remember I remember the comics I got too. This was in an era where they would package. I guess there was some leftovers, because they didn't print to order like they do today.
Right.
And you would go, I remember we had two supermarkets, Kmart and Zayre. And in the checkout aisle,
Zayre.
They would have bags with 3 comics in it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my first comics was in Zayre. And I got G.I. Joe that way. And there was a bag that had issues 1, 2, and 3.
Oh my gosh. That didn't happen a lot, right? Because it would often be a mix of like Uncanny X-Men, G.I. Joe Power Pack or something like that.
It only happened twice for me where they were all the same. The very first ones I got 3 Spider-Mans in a row, like consecutive issues. and then I got the 3 GI Joes. All the others I got was like, it's like a Hulk and Iron Man, and
Yeah.
some comic they couldn't sell was stuck in the middle.
Yeah, you never knew what the middle one was going to be. Chances are the middle one was going to be like, what was the comic that was part of Inferno that had the terrible art, and it was I don't know, it doesn't matter. X something. It was
I'm
Zach
sitting here
something.
thinking it would end up being like a Dell or a Gold Key comic.
Mhm.
Like, here's Dennis the Menace from 1971 that's just been in the back of the
there were some Marvel books in the 80s that were
Yeah.
much worse than any 1971 Dennis.
Yeah, you
Menace
get like
issue.
the Defenders or
Yeah.
Marvel Team Up or one of the reprint books, you know.
Swordsman
Marvel Tales, yeah.
Swordsman 007 says X Factor. No, definitely not X Factor. X
Lies.
Factor was
Yeah,
fantastic.
X Factor was good.
All right, we got to check in with the chat. We've got Swordsman 007 who says, the alarm went off and I am here. And I told Swordsman 007 on audiblearmy.com earlier today, he said, I want to be there tonight if I can remember. And I said, buddy, take that supercomputer out of your pocket and set an alarm. And sure enough, here he is. Mandalorian Jedi is in the chat. We've got some good sound offs. Wreck Ship 85 is in the house. Legion Cub says hi to everyone. Jeff Butler, take a look. It's in a book. It's Cobra Intern. JJ Shoulder Height is here. Hello, all. Welcome. Bobby. Wreckship 85 says, now we need a Cobra Intern reading Rainbow shirt. And according to the new bylaws of Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast, Wreckship 85, you must now go buy a t-shirt. Anybody who says, now we need a blank piece of merch, you are obligated to go buy a piece of merch at this point. And then we'll make the merch that you bring up. Who else is here? Will R says, Bobby Big Sexy Nash. That's right. We like our wrestling references around here. Mandalorian
And that
Jedi.
was one I got too. I'm not a big wrestling fan, but I got that one.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard Big Sexy before.
Well, I've met Kevin, so you know
he's a sweetheart. Unless you're a drunk punk rock band screaming outside of his room at 2:00 in the morning, and then he will walk out the door in his tighty whities and tell you to shut the not family friendly word up. And Kristian, you can guess which band. Well, Bobby, you could also guess which band this is.
Yeah.
friends
of the show, the Casket Creatures. Everybody go check them out.
I met him at a con. This is a really quick one. Sure. I met him. There was a Nash comic that had been done years ago.
Yeah.
And I saw him at the con. There was nobody at his table, and I was walking past, and I was like, "Oh, I worked for the company that put that book out. I didn't work on the book." And I introduced.
Was it Moonstone?
No, that was.
Okay.
Oh crap! What was the name of that company? I forget.
I remember those WWF comics coming out.
And so I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, I'm Bobby Nash." He goes, "Hey, that's my dad's name." And I'm like, "What a coincidence! It's my dad's name too."
That's great.
We were like, brother, you know. And so it was. We had a ball. People thought we were nuts. It was great.
Mandalorian Jedi says, I have core memories of toy sections of stores full of Joes as a kid. Yeah, I remember a good 24 to 30 feet of just G.I. Joe.
Just a big wall.
Yep. Those
and
were
when you come around that corner, when you're not looking on them straight, when you're kind of at that angle, the packaging makes this just brilliant yellow and red, almost like it looks like it was on fire almost.
Well, I mean, all of the packaging. Right? We could go on old man rants all night long here. Actually, that's what we do every week. But all the packaging back then, think about the Masters of the Universe, a big wall of Masters of the Universe packaging, or Transformers with those grids. It was beautiful. It was a sight to behold.
Yeah. Very smart packaging stuff.
Yeah. New York Night, 1974. No, it wasn't Excalibur. Excalibur was also a good. If somebody can tell me, no, it definitely was not Excalibur, guys. It was part of Inferno. It was a limited edition miniseries, and it was X.
Oh my gosh, you're talking about Exterminators.
Exterminators. That's it. Exterminators. Some of the worst art I've ever seen. That comic is kind of what hipped me to the fact that comic books didn't always have good art. Let's see. Wotaj says any issue on which Nell Yomtov worked as colorist was going to be a disappointment. Wow, that is a deep cut that I don't have reference for.
I don't recognize the name.
Yeah, wow. Give
Well,
us
that
some
should tell
follow-up
you
on that.
something
Yeah.
then.
Wreckship 85, my wallet is ready. Just point me in the right direction. Maybe we can get it for Joe Fest. Oh my gosh. All right. Wreckship, if you're going to buy a Cobra Intern rainbow shirt, we're making it. I'm not kidding. I'm going to put it together this week. Will R says Nash is a cool dude unless you're a group of martial artists, reptiles, or a vigilante who lost his family.
And I have a new weapon that I just picked up just this week.
Oh, ollies. Those are showing up
Ollies.
in ollies. Yes,
Yes.
I almost got one. And I'm in this dumb mode right now where I'm like, do I really need this? I'm saying it about so many different things that that was one of them. But it's great. Like it's the Fortnite Snake Eyes sword.
Yeah,
It's like
knowing
was
I
it
was going to be
$10?
here kind of pushed me over the edge for
And
getting
that's what we do. It's ridiculous. Mandalorian Jedi, is Old Man Rant going to be a new segment of the show? No, Old Man Rant is the entire show.
Yeah, that's what our name is in all of the foreign markets.
Yes, that's it. That's all we come across as. Weirdly enough, though, they do dub over our voices.
Yeah.
So
wow,
get down
I'm curious what I sound like now in Japanese.
So we got to get down to business. Got a few things to get out of the way before we get to the show proper. First of all, of course, I have to mention audiblearmy.com. For $1.99 a month, you can join our Patreon, audiblearmy.com, and get lots and lots of bonus content. There is so much extra stuff up there now. You'll get my show notes before each episode is released, early and ad-free access to all audio episodes, exclusive video access to recordings of audio episodes, early access to all G.I. Joe reviews on the Needless Things YouTube channel, and G.I. Joe adjacent reviews, it turns out. The opportunity to vote on content for the show. This is not on the little list here that you're looking at on your screen, but you will also have the opportunity to submit questions to Lieutenant Colonel Mongoose. And early access to Audible Interlude merch, $1.99 a month. There is only one tier, and one tier gets you all of that. And Kristian, Noel isn't here this week to naysay, to shoot down our idea. So we're going to make an executive decision without Noel.
Yes.
Let me throw this at you, and we'll see what you think. We'll see what the chat thinks. So let us know in the comments if this would be a motivator. So I'm thinking we now record video for our audio episodes, right? And that video is available exclusively at audiblearmy.com. I'm thinking, why not let the Audible Army join us for those video recordings?
Oh, that could be fun.
They will see things that the general public does not see. They will see blips, bloops, and blunders. They will hear some language that the general public may not hear. So that's
you'll get to hear how many times Dave says, no. Save it for when we're on the air. Save it for when we're on the air.
Yes. Because it is recording the audio episodes is a different experience from these live episodes. So yeah. I
like that actually a lot.
And it's a good, I mean, I feel like we've got plenty of bonus content as it is, but I do feel like that's a really special bonus thing that's probably worthy of another tier, but I'm not doing another tier. We will be $1.99 and that's it always.
We're not
Mandalorian,
just we're not
Jedi.
just old men. We went to public school. We can't handle different tiers.
No, I don't need that kind of math in my head.
You got to keep it simple.
Mandalorian Jedi says Audible Army has more content than you can shake an interchangeable mechanical neck grabbing mandible at, and that is a fact. Swordsman 007. Whoa, things are coming in fast and furious. That's a cool idea. Another Joe podcast does that for patrons of a certain tier. Yeah, it's something the Major Wrestling Figure podcast does. I'm not gonna lie. I've stolen paid tribute to like half of the things that the Major Wrestling Figure podcast does with the show, with our Patreon. Because good ideas are good ideas.
Mhm.
Will R says leaked Baroness pics. Yes, but the thing you have to remember is Baroness was in her 30s in 1984. So anyway, audiblearmy.com. Check it out. We will probably, if we do the audio segments deal, we will not start with the next episode because there's some scheduling things going on with that. But 2 episodes from, or the next audio episode after that, we will make it clear if we're going to start offering that as part of our tier. You can see that I am wearing right now a Skeletron hat. This is from our pals at Skeletron, whose RoboSkull is on the way. We've got an update on that coming up in the news. And I just want to put it out there. If you have an independent toy company and you would like to send me a hat, I will wear it during our show, and I can guarantee at least 30 people will see your hat and think, man, I wish I could afford to collect another toy line. Just putting that out there in the world. Check out our shirts at TeePublic. Go to Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram. Check our pinned stories for links to the many, many different t-shirts we have available, including this AI Pod t-shirt designed by our pal Oz.
Now, see, if this was an Audible, he would have said, we had to do that over.
That's right. Exactly. I would have just stopped. We would have done a rewind, which you won't believe what that looks like. On the schedule, our next live stream is going to be on May the 27th with a special guest, not a guest host, but a very special guest who I am not announcing yet because I don't like announcing things until I'm absolutely 100% positive they're going to happen, which is why I didn't announce what was supposed to happen this Wednesday and is not now happening. Something else is happening in its stead. And check out JoeFestUSA.com. We all know that JoeFest is the biggest and best G.I. Joe-oriented convention that happens all year long. An Audible Interlude will be producing a live episode as the kickoff panel for JoeFest 2024, Saturday morning at 10:30, right around there, sometime in that time slot. Just over a month from now, we should probably start putting some ideas together, huh? I'm just kidding. The format is already done. We will be hosting the kickoff panel.
You guys plan?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Believe it
seen
or not.
It's Sunny in Philadelphia? We go by that same theory. We have an outline we may or may not stick to.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, though, that's more factual than you might think, because we do put together an outline of show notes that you can see at audiblearmy.com before each episode is released. But we leave room to deviate because things come up, and maybe in the middle of talking about Destro's Castle, we realize that the My Little Pony Castle from 1985 is actually a better topic of conversation. You never know what's going to happen here on Audible Interlude. Wreckship 85, first Joe Fest and first AI live pod. Well, we will do everything we can to make both of them as special as they can be.
Definitely come to the panel. I'm bringing cereal this year because for those of us that work nights, 10 a.m. is very early.
Are you bringing the G.I. Joe cereal? Is it going to be this old, stale 1989 cereal?
The thought did cross my mind, but my food issues will not allow me to eat something that is over 30 years old.
That would be, you know what we got to do at Dragon Con, though? Joe Crow is going to eat some G.I. Joe cereal.
Yes, because Joe likes to schedule those 8:30 Saturday morning cartoon panels.
Well, that isn't going to be us, but for the Audible Interlude panel, we'll definitely.
Joe will eat anything.
He will. Joe will do anything for a laugh. He goes by the calculation of humor versus self-harm, And if the potential for humor comes out at a higher level, then he goes for the humor every time. Sometimes even if it doesn't. So if anybody, as Swordsman 007 says, Action Stars brought to you by Steve MRE 1989. So if anybody has a lead on where I could get a sealed box of Action Stars, hit me up and let me know, because we will be delivering those to Joe Crow at Dragon Con. All right, it is time now to move on to some news. Are you fellas ready to look at some current Joe and Joe adjacent events? All right. I didn't do any of our slides for any of that stuff, but that's okay. First off, we have some updates from our pals at Callsign Longbow. In their Kickstarter updates, they revealed the card art, or the card back. This is the final production card back for Ghost, member of the Steel Web, and this is beautiful. Bobby Nash, I don't know if you're familiar with Callsign Longbow or not.
I've seen a little bit. I'm not overly familiar.
It's a new line of O-ring figures being done the same style as the classic G.I. Joe Real American Hero figures that we grew up with. And they look beautiful. It's a Kickstarter, and they're going to be delivering their product sometime this year. And looking at this card art, what does this do for your nostalgia?
Oh yeah, it definitely. If nothing else, you certainly first think GI Joe because of the burst behind them. But I love the packaging. I love the look of it. I love the art is great. I don't know who they've got doing their art, but the figure drawing is fantastic.
I know Doug Hart has been doing a lot of the art for these lines. I'm not sure if he's who did it. And you know what? Why did I not make a note of that? Madness. But yeah,
now, how many figures are they doing with the Kickstarter?
Were there a dozen? I think. I want to say there were about a dozen figures in the first offerings.
Yeah, because we saw some that were going to be part of a second wave.
Yeah,
that's why I was thinking no, it was more than 12. But I think you're right. In the what was initially offered was the 12.
And if you notice close-up detail here, and these card backs are in production now. So they are being prepared to have figures put on them. Not just figures, though, but also bubbles, because you have to design the bubbles too. You don't just go to the bubble store and buy a blister to stick on a card back. You have to design these things as well. And if you'll notice, just like the old Joes, the accessories are listed right there on the side beside the blister. I love it. I think it's fantastic. All right, what else we've got? The Wotaj referencing the G.I. Joe serial, "The roof of Joe's mouth will curse your names into eternity." I can't wait. There is little that gives me more pleasure than causing Joe Crow discomfort in front of a mass of people. Mandalorian Jedi says, "I remember there were enough Longbow figures for me to want more than I can afford." Yeah, that's how these Kickstarters all seem to go.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, Bobby?
I was going to say, just when you do that to Joe, just make sure you duck under the Hulk cologne.
Oh my gosh, yeah, him and his colognes. Ugh. And then we also got a look at the Ghost accessories, which I think that you might recognize that knife device from the Skeletron figure that RoboSkull delivered. And then you've got a battle stand and a nifty looking blaster, as we like to say here on YouTube. But these already have been produced, which means there are bins and bins and bins of these accessories just waiting to be put on card backs and sent out into the world. And then finally, we got a really nice teaser from issue number 2 of the Callsign Longbow comic book. This is the Krasny Ninja, or the Soviet Ninja, that we were so excited about. And in talking to the Callsign Longbow guys, kind of wondered, how has nobody ever made a Soviet ninja before? But now, courtesy of Callsign Longbow, the Krasny Ninja is on its way to market. But this is a sketch, just a little promotional piece. Callsign Longbow issue number 2 is underway.
Very nice.
In other Kickstarter follow-up news, we haven't talked about it a ton here on the show. I think we did back when the Kickstarter was underway, but we haven't had a lot of follow-up because I don't have a USS flag yet. But the In the Navy Kickstarter, the backer kit is underway, so you can go in now and pre-order some of these great troop builder figures that are part of the In the Navy campaign. So we've got a Navy SEAL and a CB here. We have plenty of sailors, each of whom has 3 different heads. So I'm trying, because at some point I am going to have a USS flag again. And I'm trying to decide, do I need to go ahead and just buy a bunch of sailors? Because by the time I get that flag, by the time I set aside enough of my toy budget to buy the flag, these guys may be off the market.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I know it's unusual for a sailor to be considered off the market, but it could happen with these. So you've got 4 different ranks of sailors here. And then this should get every O-Ring Joe fan's juices a-flowing. The deck crew. Now, obviously, nobody has ever discussed offering a deck crew before. It's never been brought up in any toy conversation that I can ever remember, but they've cleverly called them ketchup, mustard, and relish. This is also fantastic. Ketchup and mustard I absolutely want, simply for, reasons.
Purposes.
But I love the fact that they threw a green one in there as well called relish. This is great. This is fantastic. So, and some of the In the Navy figures have already been produced and are out there. So if you poke around online, you can get your hands on some of the actual production figures and take a look at them and see what you think. But again, if you've got a flag, or even if you just want to have something to go along with your Sky Striker, or maybe you want a crew to man your whale, like there are a lot of different things that can be done with these Navy-oriented figures, and I dig them. I love that all these companies are out there filling these niches that Hasbro really isn't ever going to touch, or Super 7 for that matter.
Yeah, I have this vision now after seeing these, that some very clever stop motion filmmaker is going to recreate the opening to Top Gun with G.I. Joe figures and the deck crew, and somebody else is going to do a parody of the In the Navy song with the Navy guys.
I would be willing to bet that's already out there.
Yeah.
Now it would be Toll Booth and Spirit and whoever else would be involved with that. Law, Toll Booth, Spirit, Law. I'm not sure who the leather guy would be. Torch?
Slaughter.
Torch?
Slaughter.
Slaughter. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, he's got the hat and the mustache,
All we've got to do is Google it, and it's out there. There's no doubt.
We did it at Dragon Con one year with all of the shipwreck cosplayers.
That's awesome. Road Pig John is in the house. Joe, guys, what is up, Road Pig? Always happy to see you here. Yeah, Gung Ho would fit into that. Will R, you are correct. All right, moving on. We also have an update from Skeletron. Speak of the devil. Skeletron Factory Visit, RoboSkull Mark II Final Deco Review. If you are watching online, which, by the way, this video will be available in perpetuity on YouTube, on the Needless Things YouTube channel. You can check it out anytime you want. We've got some great images of the final deco for the RoboSkull Mark II. You can see those tampo hits are clean, and that translucent black plastic is gorgeous. And you can also see a bunch of the parts in the background. So this is a great little teaser image for what's to come. Oh, wait. Oh, I put Crocmaster in the wrong place. Apologies, everybody. Hang on. Let me hide this and figure out where the rest of the Skeletron pics are, and then we'll keep going. Okay, there we go.
Ooh, that looks good.
More final. Yeah. So
and that's just the wing.
That is just the wing. That translucent plastic is so nice. And then just a shot of Corey Cantalupe, who we are big fans of, a tremendously nice guy. And it is fantastic that he has landed with Skeletron and is lending his expertise and his enthusiasm to the RoboSkull project and to everything that Skeletron is doing. But he is the one actually visiting the factory in China to verify that the RoboSkull is up to the standards that we all know it's going to meet. And that is Mr. Chen on the right. And so you can see all the parts and everything. This is just very exciting. We've been following the RoboSkull project every step of the way, and I cannot wait to be reviewing this thing on the Needless Things YouTube channel. It is going to be a landmark toy, and I hope it worked out so they were able to produce like twice as many as were ordered, because once people start seeing reviews on this thing, they're going to lose their minds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me get back to where we needed to be. Where did Crocmaster go? There he is. Okay, so one last little piece of news here. Hiya Toys shared their images for Crocmaster and Fiona. And, you know, like the others, it's very, very similar to the classified release. I think it looks great. Kristian, you're our 1/18th guy. I can't remember, have you picked up any of the Hiya Toys stuff yet?
Well, I had Cobra Commander pre-order, but
Nothing
he
yet?
still hasn't shipped. I don't
Okay.
think any of them have, because I pre-ordered him, Zartan Beachhead, and I figured I'm gonna wait. I mean, because they look amazing, but I kind of want to see what the quality is. But not to be a naysayer, I actually am hoping that they start doing some non-classified figures,
Yeah, I agree.
because
It's
I'm
just not that exciting to see, oh, look, it's a smaller version of the thing I already have.
yeah, it was like awesome at the beginning, and now I'm like, oh, every single one, just okay. But Wreckship 85 says, I thought Snake Eyes had shipped. I didn't order Snake Eyes.
What, you don't need more Snake Eyeses? I will say this, though. If you look at this image that we're showing here on the screen, you'll notice that the collar has an actual chain on it and not the molded single piece of plastic. That is a pretty significant upgrade
Yeah.
over the classified, in my opinion.
I wish more companies would do that.
Kevin Riddle, what is up, Kevin Riddle? Kevin Riddle is in the chat. He says 18 figures and maybe 1 or 2 has shipped. And Will R says, yes, the Storm Shadow was the blackout version of Storm Shadow that had all the tattoos and everything on it.
That's right.
And see, if they were to do, I would love to see the blackout sci-fi that never even, I mean, we've never even seen
There you
sci-fi.
go. Yep.
There's some cool things they could do there. We could see the blackout bat. There are some cool blackout designs that I would be very interested to see. And if they kind of went in that direction, I'd be even more tempted by these. All right. That brings us to our next bit of interest here, where we are going to swing it over to our special guest co-host, the award-winning Bobby Nash. Bobby Nash, everybody check out bobbynash.com. And you have a very specific type of G.I. Joe thing that you like to collect.
Mm-hmm.
Hit us up and tell us about what you got.
Yeah, I'm not as big on toy collecting. When I get a toy, it's usually because, oh my God, that's cool. What I love is there's 2 bits. I collect the storybooks, which, oftentimes are the book and records, or the just like a straight up, hardcover storybooks. I am a big fan of storybooks, not just G.I. Joe, but so many of them, because they always have beautiful artwork, and I just love this format. So I collect as many of these as I can.
Well, take us through. Take us through your collection. What do you
cool.
got?
Okay, here's what I have handy. The Deadliest Satellite. Now, this one's a book and record. The record is actually in that one.
Oh, beautiful.
This one's a favorite. Challenge of the Clones. Always fun having a Wild Bill story.
What, second G.I. Joe prequel?
Yeah, that's right. I have one of the original Joes.
Yes.
From the secret headquarters. This is another favorite. Beautiful, beautiful artwork.
Poor Doc.
The Captive City. Yep. Let's see here. Destro's Doomsday Auction. I don't have the record for that one, but beautiful artwork by Pablos Marcos, who comic fans will probably recognize the name. This one is called Operation Starfight and has like one of my absolute favorite covers.
Oh, look at that Cobra Commander.
Yeah. And folks who have read with the omnibus hardcover will notice that image is used in there as well.
Hold that back up for a second, if you would. If you take a look at that, you can see the Cobra emblem on Cobra Commander with that white outline.
Yep.
You can tell where the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander came from.
Yeah.
Because it looks like they basically said, well, we're not doing that white outline, but just do the red part. And that, what are presumably supposed to be the eyes of the Cobra are exaggerated and have that Mickey Mouse look to them.
If I turn this off, maybe we can get rid of the glare.
Glare's not too bad. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, that is, and like Bobby said, that is right on the front of the omnibus, and it's just absolutely gorgeous artwork.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite images of Cobra Commander. And then I have this one, which is also very heavy Cobra Commander.
Again, with that white outline, very, very interesting how predominant that was in the old, non-toy art.
And these are copyright written to 1987, so these were
probably a little later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so these were probably done in 1986, probably.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm gonna turn the light back on just so you can see them a little clearer. This one's a recent edition, which I absolutely love, called Operation Outer Space, which features Ron Rudat art.
That one is in the omnibus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Recently found that one. It's hardcover. Operation Sandstorm is also hardcover.
Oh, look at that punch in the face.
Yeah.
And he's kicking the door open and punching a Cobra in the face simultaneously. And look at that weird ungloved Cobra Commander in the background right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No white outline there. But
no.
But yeah, that's a good one. This one's a Tower of Power.
Oh, that's a good band.
Yeah, that's it is. So, look at
there we go. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so we've
Storm
got
Shadow.
Yes, version 2 Storm Shadow, looking like he's been on a burger binge.
Uh-huh.
Hawk, Scarlet, and then is that Tundra Stalker? Or is that,
I think so.
That's what I was thinking.
I think it's Stalker. I do believe it's Stalker. Yes, because he's got the.
I mean, all appreciation to the artist, but his ammo.
It's just kind of
like under his armpit.
Yeah, because they're that kind of.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, I
love
this stuff though. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course they did do a couple of smaller versions. There are these.
Oh wow!
Which are oops, I'm trying to get it in the frame here.
Now, are those the ones that were written by R.L. Stein? Because I know
those are the novels. Yeah, those.
Okay, actual novels.
Yeah, and these are the same. They're storybook type, with art and. But they're apparently they just did two at this size.
I think those are what are referred to as chapter books. Is that right?
Could be.
Where they're more like novels, but they still have illustrations in them.
Yeah, I mean they have storybook written on the top.
Okay.
A Marvel Mighty Storybook.
Oh,
you know.
interesting. So that was like a
It's-
whole line, and they were
Yeah.
Marvel,
Yeah.
which is different from all that other stuff.
Yeah, and so there's the Spy Eye, and then Operation Disappearance, and these are the early versions. You notice they're all kind of wearing standard military
Yeah,
garb.
yeah.
And so these were early days, probably around the time. These were 1983 when they were
Okay.
published.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
So, but now you mentioned R.L. Stein. R.L. Stein wrote some of the novels, which I do have the novels.
Oh, there you go.
You know,
Oh,
Siege of Serpentor. This is R.L. Stein. Divide and Conquer, which is by Margot Becker.
Oh, look
that's
at
where that
Raptor
Raptor
and
piece of art comes
Big
from.
Boa and Raptor and
Oh,
Crocmaster.
see,
Uh,
I had always assumed that was like maybe a poster that came in the GI Joe magazine, because they do that with the ones that came in the He-Man magazine.
mhm.
But it was that
Yeah.
is a great piece
That's
of artwork.
amazing.
And then here's one called by S.M. Ballard called Fool's Gold, which takes place in outer space. And then we've got Invisibility Island by Lynn Beach.
Oh, with
good.
Mambas and the hydrofoil.
Yep. This one, number 5. There were 6 novels. Number 5 is also by R.L. Stein called Jungle Raid, which is really good. And then
Gosh,
number
this art
6,
is gorgeous.
yeah, number 6 is called The Sultan's Secret by Peter Larangis. It's got a Dr. Mindbender on the cover.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
wait, is Serpentor sleeveless?
Yes, he is. Oops. Yeah. So
Wow.
now they also did. I don't have all of these because they're expensive, but they did like 22 Find Your Fate books, which were like Choose Your Own Adventure. And
Bobby Nash,
Yes.
it's funny you mention that.
There you go. See, I have like
Because
just a handful of them. Yeah.
we talked about these on last week's audio episode. I got a few of these. We talked about, I think it was we talked about the first one because
Mhm.
it was in New York. They had a parade to celebrate all of the parades that they have in New York. Operation Dragonfire, which is a familiar name, but it is unrelated to the miniseries.
Right.
The Everglades
Nice.
Swamp Terror.
We call that gung ho's cooking.
Yep.
Operation Deathstone. And I'm curious to get deeper into these because the one that I read, the first one, Operation Death Ray, by Megan Stein and H. William Stein, not to be confused with R.L. Stein.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Operation Mindbender, which is number 9. So those are the ones I got in one auction. I got quite a deal.
Nice. We did at Monsterama last year. We did a panel where several of the guests performed the roles, and we did one of the Find Your Fates. I don't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but hilarious. We had a ball.
Well, we do at DragonCon, we do a choose your own adventure panel where we let the audience determine what adventure will be chosen. And yes, it is a blast to use one of those as a prompt for entertainment.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. We had so much fun. I mean, because we couldn't get through it without giggling.
Yeah. You can't keep a straight face through those things.
Yeah, because you have to look to, and the time these were written, they were written for a very specific audience.
Yes.
It's
well, the choose your own adventure are on what I would think of as like maybe a middle school reading level, but the Find Your Fates, or at least the one G.I. Joe one that I read, is almost elementary school level. It's a very, very different, because I can sit down and look at a choose your own adventure and be, I recognize it's a little simplistic, but I can enjoy reading it. But the Find Your Fate was, I'm not going to lie, it was a tough read.
Yeah. The one we did, and I don't remember the title of it now. I wish I'd had the paper still. It dealt with a new Joe who was the person.
They all do. They all do.
And he was not a nice guy. He was horrible, horrible to the other Joes. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to do the job. It was
Oh
just
my gosh.
and I'm thinking, and like he's like giving Hawk crap, and I'm like, Hawk would bounce this guy in a second, but
Well, the thing that I didn't realize about the Viewpoint characters in those books is it's a child.
mm,
When you look at the artwork,
yeah,
it's a child as
that
the
makes
Viewpoint
sense, yeah,
character.
because that was the age they were shooting for, so
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Swordsman 007 says, I just bought all 6 of those novels. I won't say how much I spent on them. Yeah, I
They
can't
are not.
imagine because
They are not cheap.
yeah,
It took me a few years to get these 6, just finding them where I could find them, where they
right.
didn't cost an arm and a leg.
Jeff Butler says, I grew up with 8 or 9 Find Your Fate books, love them, and now have all of them. Heads up to those looking for them. The last few books have gotten very expensive.
Mhm.
And that's how it tends to be with anything you collect. Like once you get to the end of the line, whether it's a toy line or books or whatever the case may be, the production numbers are going down.
Mhm.
Towards the end, they're just not making as many because they know the end is coming. So where at some point they may have printed 25,000, well, the last few, maybe they're only 10,000.
Yeah, because Find Your Fate lasted a little while. Because I know they also did Indiana Jones Find Your Fate novels,
Yeah.
and I
And
don't
there
remember.
were,
Yeah.
I don't remember if they were Find Your Fate, but it was the same kind of thing. There were James Bond ones as well.
Mhm.
And I remember those being like on the choose your own adventure level, but
Yeah.
I haven't read one in 40 years. So
Yeah.
who
There were
knows?
some Star Trek ones too, some original series Star Trek ones that
It'd be
I think.
interesting to see what prices were on
I
all the
don't
different.
know why. I mean, I get from supply and demand, but the discourse over how expensive these books are when you stop and think, like, these were meant
Mhm.
for little kids. These should end up in like used bookstores.
Mhm.
It
But
it
no, I visit
again,
a
I
lot of
don't know
used.
why
Yeah.
it surprises me, but
Yeah.
it does.
I visit a lot of used bookstores, and GI Joe novels are never in there.
Wow.
Part of it does go where some of these folks became very pop, like R.L. Stein obviously became R.L. Stein.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those books obviously went up because he wrote them. But it's just like with comics where, you know, a whole run of comics, they're worth a buck or two a piece, but you get that one book where
Right.
a certain character shows up and it's $300.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Then we need to make, what was his name from the book we did on the audio one, Whiz Kid or whatever.
We need to make either Eric Affabee, who wrote Operation Star Raider, we need to either make his stuff really, really popular, or we need to get a classified figure made of codename Wise Guy.
Wise
Yeah.
Guy, that was it.
Which here
Yeah.
we've got for anybody who didn't, this is a taste of what you get at audiblearmy.com. We shared some of the compelling art from this novel on our last audio episode. So if you want to see things like this, which that is Wise Guy, a G.I. Joe operative who is clearly a child trying to prevent Airtight from grabbing on to a tiny cobra dragonfly. So if you want to see that kind of action, sign up now at audiblearmy.com.
Big change compared to the storybook art, which
Right?
Yeah, right.
like this stuff is gorgeous.
Like,
Yeah.
I can
You know.
absolutely understand why those are, because I mean, I still have some of the, not the little golden books, but they did like
Mhm.
bigger hardcover versions,
Yeah.
for some of the Masters of the Universe and all that, because the paintings inside that
Yeah.
they just don't do artwork like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because these were the guys that were also, I mean, these guys were doing these books while they were doing magazine covers. They were living off,
Right.
all right, they were living off magazine covers. They were making a little side money doing this, which which is funny because now these are the things that are worth money, and the magazine covers are. Yeah.
Well, I think with the G.I. Joe books, it's probably it's not really a matter of demand, it's just a matter of scarcity. Like
Yes.
there just aren't that many out there.
Mhm.
It's not
Right.
that many, because GI Joe collectors are a niche of the toy collecting community. GI Joe collectors who collect things other than toys are a niche of a niche, and GI Joe collectors who want Find Your Fate books are a niche of a niche of a niche. So like the
Yeah.
demand is not huge, it's
Yeah.
just that there's
True.
not that
Well, and
many out there.
and most of like
Well, I would like to think, because with my time, all those years working in comic shops and collectible shops, there were certain lines that maybe didn't command the most money, but the people who liked it really, really
Love
liked
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and they would never trade them in. They would
Yeah.
never sell them. They're going to be
Yeah.
buried with it. And I would like to think that the quality of those books is at that level, but at least with what you shared
Well,
with us,
But things like too, I mean, but things like too, like the storybooks and things like that were marketed to a very young audience.
oh yeah,
Even this book that shows them shooting people, these were marketed to children.
different times.
Yeah, and not only, and it wasn't that people didn't like them or anything, or they didn't sell well, but they very rarely did not survive
Right.
true
because
Yeah,
enough.
absolutely.
we were reading them and
Yeah.
we weren't, as a kid, I didn't think about one day I'm going to want this again.
Well, I would think original printings of any storybooks are going to be a difficult find.
Yeah.
Like even ones that were produced in high numbers, if it's from like the 70s or 80s, like they got destroyed. They didn't make it because they weren't meant to last 40
Yeah.
years.
Most of the ones I find were in libraries and eventually moved from libraries to the resale market.
Right.
That's where I tend to find them.
Jeff Butler says he thinks he's going to plan to do a reel showing these on Instagram soon. He's got the 6 novels as well. Jeff Butler, drop your Instagram handle here and we'll post it so people can check it out. New York Night 1974 says, can't they be read online? I'm sure they can,
Possibly.
but that's just, you don't get the smell.
Yeah. I
have found
I have found scans of some of the storybooks online.
Yeah, I'm sure they're out there.
And
Jeff
like
Butler
just like the
also
old
says,
Power records,
Yeah, right, exactly.
you can find those.
Jeff Butler says, really glad Bobby is sharing all these. It's making me want the storybooks I still don't have yet. Jeff Butler also says, that's Mr. Niche, thank you. Wotash says, Alfredo P. Alcala worked mainly for DC Comics, but he was my favorite artist for the Masters of the Universe mini comics. Yes, absolutely. Those mini comics, that Dark Horse collection of the mini comics is one of my favorite books I have on the shelf.
We as G.I. Joe fandom missed out by never getting Serpentor Alcala artwork.
Yeah.
Because he just...
Yeah.
The way he would do monsters.
Look.
Or Cobra Law, even.
We're living in real weird times right now where Mattel is currently releasing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures. I don't think sometime down the line, Snake Men, led by Serpentor in Masters of the Universe Origin style, is out of the question. Now, we're not going to get Alcala artwork, but we will get one of the many people who pay tribute to his style, we'll say. Mandalorian Jedi says, I think the demand for these just went up by 31. And Jeff Butler is Nowhere Manchild on Instagram. So keep an eye out on that account. All right. It is now time to move on. Now that we've seen a little bit of Bobby Nash's collection, I think what we want is a look. Oh, I don't have a banner for this. I'm going to have to type out collecting the art of G.I. Joe, which
Spoiler alert.
Which is right, exactly. Which is a great resource to look at a lot of the art that we were just talking about. What we're going to do in this segment is Bobby and I, now Kristian does not yet have his copy of Collecting the Art of G.I. Joe, but what Bobby and I are going to do is talk about a few of the things that went, yeah, right? Mine is over here on my TV tray. Ugh. This is a monster. But Bobby and I are going to share, good Lord, some of the things we have learned from collecting the art of G.I. Joe. And before we get into that, for reference, I just want to throw up a picture here. We just both shared the massive size of our tomes, but this is a shot of the front of the book with a Tiger Force Frostbite. Swordsman 007 says, "Do you even lift, bros?" No, I don't. I
We
lift
do now.
anytime. So you're going to notice my selections mostly come from early in the book because, one, I've been trying to really savor this and enjoy every single page. And two, I have to rearrange the entire room every time I want to sit down and read this book because nobody has tables this big with nothing on them, just ready to fold this thing out on. So anyway, you're looking right now at the size of this book. That is Tiger Force Frostbite right in the middle of the page there for reference. And then Bobby is holding his up in front of his face.
Real quick,
it's massive.
Jeff Butler, humble brag. My brother and I are the kids in 1991 Cobra T-shirts inside the front cover. Well, now we got to.
Yeah, hang on. Let me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Bobby. Are you looking at that?
Man
don't
down.
injure yourself. We don't have insurance. We will not cover the ones in the Cobra T-shirts.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna flip it around here.
Good luck. Don't. Oh, you gotta take the jacket off. You gotta jack it off, Bobby. Don't ruin it.
Come on, there.
Be sure you jack it off before you open it. All right.
Always good advice. Okay.
That's right.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Okay. I don't know how much you can.
Everybody's old photo.
Looks like right in the top left there. Well, here, let me open my copy so I can tell what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think right there at the spine.
Yep. Is that it, Jeff Butler?
Ugh.
So anyway, Bobby's exhausted now. We're all exhausted from picking up this massive book.
But yeah, and very excited. We were talking about that Cobra art. There it is, right there on the.
Yes, it's all. I mean, obviously, this is collecting the art of G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, Will R says I'm the guy in the silver face mask and blue suit on the cover. Okay,
what's up, boss?
All right. So the things I'm going to kick this off, and the first thing that Wotash says, the very definition of ponderous tome. You are not wrong. So.
Yeah, this is not light reading you take with you on the subway.
No, it is not at all. It's impossible. Well, Todd Bratchford, my photo made it on the back spread of childhood photos. I'm holding the cake. All right, well, hang on. I'll do this one, Bobby.
Okay.
We don't. If we have a reputation for injuring guests on the show, we're never going to get Lenny and Emily on this thing.
Gotcha.
All right.
There's someone holding a G.I. Joe cake on the left side near the top,
holding
right under the flag.
Cake.
Right under the flag. There's someone holding a cake. And then on the far right side, there's someone with a plate.
Oh, here he is. Good Lord, this is innavigable. So just right in the middle of the screen there. Look at that. That's little Todd.
That is so cool.
Okay, no more. Unless you wrote the book, I'm not holding up any more.
Yeah,
because
we did something similar. I know. Well, I didn't have any in it, but I remember when we did the Joy of Joe, they used photos like that on some of the
covers. Yeah. I sent one in, dude. Okay, you know what? I'm going to get this off my chest. It was an honor to be part of the Joy of Joe. I sent in a picture of me with my USS flag. Great picture. Conquest is on it. Sky Striker's on it. Maybe the Conquest wasn't on Dragonfly and Sky Striker, whatever. I need to remember to share the picture next live stream. Anyway, I sent my picture in. He didn't use it, but he did use the stolen catalog picture that's in every G.I. Joe website you ever go to. I was like, are you kidding me? You have an actual legit Christmas flag picture and you're not going to use it? Anyway, that's my beef there. But
you've been holding on to that for a while, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have. Everybody check out The Joy of Joe, available on Amazon. Bobby and I both have pieces in there. Okay, so the first thing that I learned from The Art of G.I. Joe, and this goes back to, can't you see this stuff online? Of course, you can see a ton of this online, but the internet is no replacement for seeing this art in person. There is a tactile experience similar to listening to records that the internet is just killing. Sitting down, you when you're sitting looking at your phone, good Lord, looking at your phone, not even looking at a full-size desktop screen, but looking at your phone, you just don't get the same experience as sitting down with this gorgeous printed artwork, savoring every bit of it in person in front of your eyes, the smell of a book, the feel of the page, the reveal of turning the page. It's just an experience that honestly you can't put a price on, versus going to yojo.com and being like, well, there's a picture of Short Fuse, guess I'm done for the day. You just can't compare these things.
And one of the things that's in here too, because probably most of our first experience, our first introduction to G.I. Joe, what was the package art, the blister pack art of them, the character with the bird. And this book, and I'm not done with the book yet either. I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of like pacing it.
Oh, dude, I'm in like 1984. That's as far as I've gotten.
But there are the artwork for the figure cards in here without the text. So you can see all the art uncovered without the text and the blocking and all over them. And it's just, oh my, these I would love to see like a traveling museum piece with all this in it.
Well, then you need to come to Joe Fest.
Yeah.
Because Carson brings full-size samples of the artwork. Sweet. And you can actually see a lot of this stuff in person, and it's breathtaking. Let's see here. I think the next slide is not what I want. Nope. But there's some more awesome Robo Skull stuff. So
nice
things I learned from collecting The Art of G.I. Joe. This is probably something that's common knowledge for people who like dive into G.I. Joe in a way that I just, even with doing this show, I never have. I never knew that little loop on the Cobra Trooper's right arm is piano wire for murdering people. I had no idea. And it's diagrams like this. Ron Rudat's Mandalorian Jedi says, you can only look at this on a screen if it's a 90s 32-inch TV screen, so you can feel the heft. Swordsman 007 is correct. He says, Bobby, you should come to Joe Fest and bring some of your books with you. I agree 100%.
Yes, because I'm only 2 hours away from Augusta.
Dude, it's right around the corner. Yeah. So I would offer to give you a ride, except we go to Wilmington, North Carolina afterwards, and I doubt you want to. You don't want to hang out with my parents for 4 days. I'll just tell you that right now. So yeah, this is Ron Rudat's line art for the Cobra Trooper design, and yeah, that's piano wire. And I just never. I had seen it, and I'd wondered what are these little loops, and I just never thought. You know what? I probably thought when I was a kid. So. You guys remember when we're kids, Rambo, huge. Rambo's huge. And every kid wanted one of those Rambo survival knives with the little screw-off compass and all the like flint and steel and matches and everything else.
Fishing wire.
And the little saw, right? Remember the little saw with the 2 rings that if you got it wasn't really a kid version of the survival knife, but it was the cheapo version that your parents were willing to get for you. So that saw wasn't going to cut through butter. But in my kid brain, I probably thought that was one of those saws. I certainly didn't think it was piano wire for murdering people.
Although I imagine one of those, if it had the sharp one, you could cut that little saw, could have sawed right through somebody's neck.
That's true. That would be just as worthy a weapon. Jeff Butler says, man, I wish I could meet you all at Joe Fest in person, but I'll be at the DFW Joe Show that weekend. And look, Dallas-Fort Worth Joe Show is shaping up to be pretty respectable as well. I wish they weren't the same weekend. Toy Reclaimer will be at Joe Fest. Excellent. We will see you there. So that was the second thing that I learned. The next thing that I learned from collecting the art of G.I. Joe. So more of Ron Rudat's artwork. And Kristian, tell me if you recognize the names.
Yeah.
Augur,
That
Liquidator.
is very inhuman sounding there.
Indeed it is. As many people know, Inhumanoids is one of my favorite toy lines of all time. Definitely my pick for the toy line I wish could have kept going. And these are Inhumanoids logo art in collecting the art of G.I. Joe that I don't know if they're just
What?
doodles. Right. Very interesting. These are all just thought process insignia designs for the Inhumanoids characters. And it's right next to, if you're just listening, which why would you be? Go to the Needless Things YouTube channel and check this video out. But if you look, it's right next to a bunch of G.I. Joe insignia designs.
Mhm.
So this is probably something that Carson just found in Ron Rudat's paperwork and was like, well, let me throw this in here as well.
Yeah, because there's probably not going to be an Inhumanoids book of this caliber.
It's as sad as it makes me to say, you are probably correct.
No, but it does make me now wonder if if during the early stages were they thinking, not that it was a part of G.I. Joe, but would it be a 3 3/4 inch line?
Well, I mean, technically it is a 3 3/4 inch line.
Yeah, because the Inhumanoids were just massively.
Right. Yeah, but the humans are like, no, they're
it's
like
just the suits. Their heads are G.I. Joe.
Well, yeah, their heads are teeny tiny.
But which in my mind, it has always been that's a G.I. Joe size person in a massive suit, which I think that's how it was in the cartoon, but I'm going to be honest.
I kind of think
the
you're
cartoon,
right.
It was more like when everything was in proportion when they would
was
take
it okay? And see, that's I need to go back and revisit it. Jeff Butler says I won't spoil it, but there's a terrific page in the book detailing the connection between Joe and Inhumanoids. I think it's Hector Ramirez is in there, right? They mentioned Jim as well.
Yeah, because
I would assume,
and that was a magic time too for the cartoons because most of them were being produced. They looked similar in animation style.
Yeah, it was Sunbow.
But it was Sunbow.
Yeah, it was Sunbow.
So yeah, because Hector Ramirez, I know, appears on G.I. Joe and
G.I. Joe, Jim, and Inhumanoids.
So there were different, and a lot of the same actors obviously bounced between, shows. But yeah.
Road Pig John. Now, I think this information. So he's saying Inhumanoids, Super 7, anyone? I bet in less than 2 years they will launch the line. And that's what I want more than anything. But I read somewhere in Road Pig John, I think it's on our mutual stomping grounds of His Tank, that Brian Flynn has said he already has the license for Inhumanoids and just is kind of sitting on it because they aren't quite sure what to do with it.
Was it the last interview that he did or the one before? He did say they have another partnership with Hasbro.
Oh, that's right.
Announcing soon.
He did say that. Oh,
and
please.
As much as I want a Visionaries line, Super 7 would knock Inhumanoids out of the park.
Because all they would have to do is do Inhumanoids. Now, I don't know which way you go. Do you mock the original toy line where the suits are gigantic, or do you just make them G.I. Joe O-ring size? And if you do that, then all you have to do for the monsters is do them Super Cyborg style.
That's what I was thinking, because like with their Godzilla line, with the Super Cyborg line, like you've already shown that you can make big scale monsters.
Right.
I
think
won't
we're also
fight any of the humans at all. I just want all of the creatures.
I also foresee a day, probably not too far in the future, where someone who was a fan is now working in Hollywood and goes, you know what movie we can do, what we can do now, what we have the technology to do. I suspect that Inhumanoids is ripe for one of these big monster,
Let's hope. Road Pig John is confirming, yes, they do have the license for Inhumanoids. Let's hope they have plans as well.
Brian will be at Joe Fest,
and I will be assaulting him. I've never had a restraining order issued against me before, but everybody show up for Joe Fest because you may see me receive my first restraining order because I'm going to pester that man. It's going to be ridiculous. Jeff Butler says it's Hector plus another character. Wotash says, according to Buzz Dixon, it is indeed Hector Ramirez. Yeah, he is the connecting thread there.
Yeah. Well, there was a female reporter, I think, that bounced between the shows as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I want to say it was a blonde female reporter.
Blondes are a dime a dozen. That's why nobody remembers her.
Yeah. So.
And then the final thing I wanted to bring up that I learned from collecting the art of G.I. Joe was and this is from a little further back in the book, because I will admit I did flip ahead a little bit because I just wanted to see artwork of some of these vehicles we've been seeing in the Deke cartoons. And this is the mural puzzle from 1990 that the colors and just how dynamic it is and how much stuff is crammed in there is beautiful. But I bring this up because this makes me want a G.I. Joe version of Where's Waldo. Because that is exactly what this looks like to me.
Where's Shipwreck?
Yes, that's the one. Let's go. Let's make that happen. I do not like, when I was a kid, I loved puzzles. I absolutely loathe puzzles at this point in my life. I would love to have a poster of this, but the last thing in the world I would want is a puzzle of this. So that is that so far are just some of the high points of things I've learned.
Well, I'll give you one other that I was really impressed with.
Okay.
And that is the poster prints.
Oh,
the
dude.
section that is just prints. Oh my God, there is some absolutely stunning artwork in this folder, including the one you just showed. So yes, absolutely beautiful. A lot of them are, the character, the art from the packaging, but then, there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful pieces in here, including this one, which is one of my favorites. I do love the one with the flag. So that's some beautiful, beautiful stuff.
And what's cool about those prints is they let first of all, there were only supposed to be, I think it started off as 8 or 10 prints, and they just kept adding because
there's
the backing for the book. Right, the backing for the book so far exceeded their expectations. So half of the prints were voted on by people who backed the Kickstarter, and the other half were chosen by the people who worked on the book.
Yeah,
and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, because some of the stuff you see in here is catalog art, which we always saw small.
Right.
Or we're now seeing it at this full. What is this, 11 by 17 or something in that area?
Oh, it's
huge. Yeah, so there's some beautiful, beautiful, suitable for framing. I mean,
well, and that's the problem really with those prints is each one is gorgeous. A lot of it is G.I. Joe artwork we've never had the opportunity to see at this scale, certainly not in person in front of our faces. I want to get frames for all of them, but as you can maybe see from looking behind me, I've got a little bit of a wall space deficit at this point in my life. Between artwork and
it's time for a new building to go outside.
Oh my gosh. Anything else you wanted to point out about collecting the art of G.I. Joe? I know you haven't had a ton of time to dip into it yet.
Yeah, because I've only had it like a week now. So I've and like I said, I've been going through it very slow. I kind of did what you did. I leafed through it really quick and just kind of went, and now I'm slowly starting to read. And
okay, then I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
When you got the book, was there a certain vehicle or character? Was there some sort of G.I. Joe epheria that you were like, well, I have to see what the book says about that before I do anything else? Or did you start at page 1?
The first thing that I flipped to, because the book is organized by year, and then within each year by figures, vehicles, and then other. And the first thing I did was go to 1982 other, because I wanted to see the trash cans and the hats and the belt buckles and the that's what I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at that art that came from outside of the toy line.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
the prints was were the first thing I pulled out and looked at because it's the first thing you see when you open it.
Yeah, it's sitting right there in the top. Yeah.
And so I took them out and I was just like, just going through them, and I laid them out like you said, you can't just flip through it. Like I laid them across the bed, like my entire bed is covered in, GI Joe prints, and I did that, and then just started flipping through it, just nothing in particular, just looking and marveling. There's so much beautiful, beautiful stuff in here. So I'm just in the early stages of reading it, but I'm really excited to get up into the meat of creating it and all that. I love the behind the scenes stuff.
Hmm.
All of the
Hearing
verbiage in the book is amazing.
yeah, all the stuff that goes into it, you know. And over the years I've talked with writers, and yes, one of the coolest things is over the years I've got to meet guys that were responsible for shaping this thing that I love. I've met Larry, I've met Buzz, I've met Flint. I've talked to a lot of those guys and some of the actors that did the voices, and so talking to them, hearing some of the stories of why things happened the way they did, or those type of things, is just, it's really, really cool.
Road Pig John says, actually, Ace is the other
Hmm.
connection between G.I. Joe and Inhumanoids. That's right. He shares the same last name
But no,
as.
he was going to join.
Oh, is that what it was?
Remember? Yeah, we talked about it on an earlier episode
I
because
don't remember what we
they.
talked about last week.
I know. But he is the pilot in an episode that gets shot down by Slither, and
Now that you
they
say
were
Oh,
that, I
going
remember
to
that. Yeah.
bond him with the pieces to the Sky Striker. And just I mean, if it wasn't this year, it was towards the end of last year, I finally found prototype photos online. Not that someone took the photo of the figure itself, but just somebody had, because they also had oh, I can't remember his name, but one of the later monsters again didn't get produced, but you would be able to gag oil. You would put the figures in his stomach and the acids would
Mhm.
digest them. Like he had these
Oh my
prototypes behind him,
gosh.
and
Yeah.
you're just like zooming in on this black and white photo, just like, oh, that's what we
See,
missed out on.
that's how Super 7 should start. With Ace and Gag Oil? Is that what you
Gag
said?
oil, yeah.
Let's go. Start there, because a
Yeah.
Super Cyborg would be exactly the right size to be able to stick an O-ring figure like in its acid stomach.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
Because
then
that was something I thought of
Mhm.
when you showed the Inhumanoids logos. I was like, well, wait. I mean, we've seen the prototype of Ace, so there's got to be artwork of Ace. Would they include that in a GI Joe book?
we'll find out.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get we'll get there.
5 years from now when we
I mean,
finished reading it.
there was Inhumanoids, drawings in there we just looked at, so it could be, because so now that means that, like, Inhumanoids, GI Joe, Jim, and Transformers, just the animated series, were all connected, because
Mm-hmm.
Cobra Commander does show up in a Transformers episode.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, and because they shared the same
yeah.
studio, you have Optimus Prime that shows up in GI Joe. I can't
Well,
remember if
the
it.
model.
The model.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, the model. I can't remember if it was GI Joe or another Transformers episode. But there is a school shot. Of course, they all look like adults, and one of the ladies sitting is Jerica. I mean, it's
Mhm.
straight up her model. So yeah.
Yeah, well, like a lot of older TV, they were not afraid to reuse footage when they could.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
and
Got to
look,
make it affordable.
with the
Yeah.
Energon universe now, it's all potentially going to come back around, and I
Mhm.
sure hope it does. But before that happens, it is time for the Audible Army to sound off. This is the portion of the show where we go online to hear what you, the listeners, want to talk about. We start things off with audiblearmy.com. The members there get priority on what we discuss. So kicking things off, Toy Reclaimer asks, does the impending Super 7 O-Ring onslaught make you guys think twice about continuing with Classified? I love the line, but footprint is getting huge. I go back and forth. This is a great question, and I also think about this kind of stuff all the time. I often go back and say, look, I never wanted 6-inch GI Joes in the first place, but they came along and they were great, and I'm collecting them now. And then Super 7 started doing the Sunbow figures, and I thought, ooh, man, these are great. These are what I want. But Super 7 is so slow with these ultimates that I can't just collect this and get, 3 figures a year or 4 figures a year. That's ridiculous. And then Classified comes back with their Retro Duke and their Retro Scarlet that, yes, they're not Sunbow, but they are in that vein. So I question, well, man, do I want the Ultimates anymore? I don't know. And if Super 7, and I think I've said this on the show before, if Super 7 comes hard enough with these O-rings, I don't know if I'll keep going with Classified. And I say that with the full knowledge that Classified is the biggest attention getter on the Needless Things YouTube channel, that those reviews get more views than anything else that I do. So chances are I'll never stop collecting Classified, but yes, I absolutely think twice about it.
So we have the podcast to thank for your continuing to buy a lot of things.
More so the reviews that I do on the YouTube channel, because the
Mhm.
podcast, we can talk about stuff that's coming out or is out all day long, but actually doing those reviews on the Needless Things YouTube channel, like, that's what got the channel where
I
it
think
is.
you can thank the podcast for getting me and Noel into Classified, because when
Yes.
we first started, we were not 6-inch figure guys. We both just, I believe, if I remember correctly, was just decided, I'm going to pick up a few of the Cobra characters. I got gifted the Baroness with the motorcycle, and then once you have them in your hands, that's it. So when I thought about this question, I think it's going to be an aesthetics difference. Like what we saw with the mothership, like the design of the Vipers, that cartoony look. I think for me personally, there's going to be some characters that I love. I'm going to get them no matter what. But will I get everything in that look? Probably not.
Yeah. See, that's like me. I'm not a toy collector. If I see one I like and I just go, ooh, I've got to have that, I'll buy it. But I
That's
don't.
what we do also. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
but I don't. Yeah. But see, for me, it's more either the figures, or not the figures, the vehicles. Like, I love a good vehicle, or or that, you know what, that'll look good on the shelf here in my office. Really, that's the
You're
that's
looking
the
more for
qualifier.
singular items and
Right.
not for
It's like,
collections.
ooh, I like that. That's
Yeah.
cool. There are a few things that I collect. Like, I'm a big sucker for Jaws memorabilia.
Yeah.
So when the Jaws figures came out, I was like, the week they came out, I ran out and got them, because I knew if I didn't get them, I'd regret it later. So I mean, that happens. But in terms of stuff like this, I can appreciate them without owning them, because I do enjoy the unboxing videos and the videos you guys do, showing all the what's the word I'm looking for, while their hands move,
articulation, accessories, all that kind of stuff.
So I do enjoy watching the videos of those, because I am fascinated by how the toys are put together and all that stuff. I just don't need to own them. I can appreciate them.
I'm jealous. That is a good place to be.
Now, on the other hand, I can't walk into a bookstore.
Also coming from audiblearmy.com, Matthew Comstock. I'll be there if I can remember it, and you did remember it. Good job. If you guys have addressed this question before, I apologize. Please disregard. Well, who knows if we've addressed anything before or not? I certainly can't remember. Do you utilize Marauder gun runners at all for 118 needs or wants? Did you in the past prior to Classified? I find myself watching movies and TV shows and think to myself, I can make a figure out of that character. I also indulge in a lot of their geared up figure sales. It seems like since Classified debuted, a lot of fans have really abandoned 118 stuff altogether because of the lack of official Joe 118 scale stuff. Just wondering about your thoughts. Kristian, I would imagine you've got some things to say here.
Yeah, granted, I haven't purchased from Marauders in a while, but I still love that when we talk about, like, O-rings or 3 3/4 figures, that's the style that I like, because there's more posability, there's better proportions. Granted, not on the 25th GI Joe figures, but anyway, I like when I went to Joe Fest last year. Oh, there were so many Marauder customs that I wanted to get, and I kicked myself a little bit for not getting them, but it sure did. As soon as I got home, I got right on their website. I also am, beyond just the figures, I'm a diorama builder, and Marauders has so much stuff that I just don't think the bigger companies are going to do, but they should look at them. I mean, the medical accessories. Did I need a crutch for my GI Joe figures? No, but the fact that one exists, I have to have it. And it looks, great with Lifeline helping somebody at the bivouac. I also think of the canines. It took Classifieds for Hasbro to finally give us good, sculpted, articulated animals, and Marauders was already doing it. So I hope they don't stop.
No, I don't think there's any danger of that. I have almost completely gotten out of modern articulated 118 scale stuff, just because I've got my Joe collection. Every once in a while, I'll pick up something like the Grindhouse Toys releases, or like I know some of the Gold Eagle Force stuff I'm not going to be able to resist, but for the most part, I am out of that style of figure.
Well, and you have also said, though, that you very much are, this aesthetic goes with this aesthetic. You can't mix. Whereas I can have an O-ring figure on my shelf next to a modern figure.
I can't even have a Marauders figure next to a 25th figure.
Yeah, see?
So it doesn't work for me.
And one of the first Marauders I built was a custom short fuse, because I didn't have that, and he looks fine. Well, a teeny tiny bit taller than everybody else, but that's real life.
I am jealous of your complete lack of discernment.
This was a big thing that came up on our panel that time we were doing. It was like we're like Dave and Ryan. We're like, oh, well, I played with my GI Joes, and I played with Star Wars. They said, "What'd you play with?" I said, "I just mixed and matched."
Oh gosh, I'm still disgusted from that.
Yeah, it was like the look on their face was like, you would think I was like I had committed like the ultimate sin.
Oh, Dave hates the fact that my stands for my classifieds are the.
Well, hang on. All right, show the people the egregious sin you're committing. This man has GI Joe figures on suit. Well, first of all, the fact that you're putting things on stands at all is appalling to me. But the fact that it's a superpowers stand is just remind me to bring you this giant bag of stands that I've
No,
got super cheap.
when Matty Collector was going down, those things were being clearanced out. You got 50
I don't
stands
care.
for $2.
It's a superpowers stand. Oh,
Cobra is a
Yes,
superpower.
this is the flashback to that panel.
oh. All right, we got to move on before I end up with a headache. Mandalorian Jedi from audiblearmy.com. In an attempt to increase exposure among a younger customer base, G.I. Joe has partnered with McDonald's to feature a limited series of small, inexpensive Joe products and Happy Meals, which are engaging enough to co-opt the unsuspecting youths into a lifetime of Joe fandom. As subject matter experts, SMEs, you three have been tapped to decide what products will best accomplish the mission. Good luck, gentlemen. The fate of the fandom rests in your capable hands.
Wow. It sounds like this is something Cobra has masterminded.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, Hasbro is Cobra. We all know that. So I gave this some thought, and it's actually very difficult now because you can't do real toys in Happy Meals anymore.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of find a way around that. I was going to be lazy and say, oh, well, they get QR codes to unlock G.I. Joe characters in Fortnite. Because, look, realistically, that's the best option.
Mhm.
But I wanted to be a little more creative with that. So I am going to go to, because I think you can do like little vehicle things.
Yeah.
I think I've seen those in Happy Meals.
Well, we used to have the kind you would pull them back.
Right.
Let
Right.
them
But
go
things
and
have changed as to what they can put in a Happy
Yeah.
Meal now. But I think you do little chibi style versions of some of the Joe vehicles. You do a whale, and they're not to scale with each other. They're all like, 3 inches around. You do a whale that actually floats. You do a hiss tank. You probably can't really do a helicopter in the style that I'm thinking of, although that would be fun. Maybe you do a dragonfly and the blade spins, but it's like a thick, chunky blade. But anyway, just chibi style toys of the vehicles. And maybe you even do them in crazy bright colors. Like you
Mhm.
don't do a black hiss tank, you do a red hiss tank. You do the whale, it's a brighter green. Do the water moccasin, and it can be more like a more bright turquoise. Or maybe they're all bathtub toys.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that would
that's
be good.
all boats. So you do the devilfish, bright orange, water moccasin, that bright turquoise, the whale in a brighter green, and then some of the later water vehicles that I'm not thinking of right now.
Yeah. Kind of like how Army men used to all be one color. Like the big tub of Army men were all
Yeah,
green.
but these would be like just brighter versions of their original toy colors.
I would also, if I was put in charge of it, I love the idea of the bath toy, like a little rubbery or plastic. I would also find a cup. It doesn't have to be this tall, just a small cup with some beautiful G.I. Joe artwork on it with the toy inside of the cup.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we've talking tonight, I think we've all agreed that the very first thing that attracted us was this art.
Yeah, the artwork. 100%.
And I think if you could put some of that artwork on a little, just a plastic cup.
Ooh, Bobby, I hate to contradict you. I don't think you use that artwork. I think you've got to find some kind of modern comic booky.
Yeah, well, sure. But I mean,
like
I
it's
said,
probably
art.
going to be art that we would not like.
Sure. But I'm
if
thinking,
we're trying to engage the youth.
But I'm still thinking art though, because art is something that would grab people. And so I mean, it could be art out of the new comic. It could be the comic style art. I'm not sure exactly how the G.I. Joe packaging art looks now, because the last thing I bought still kind of had that old style art. So I don't know.
I think they all need to be done in the art style of the Zorana classified figure.
That's what I was thinking. It needs to be slightly cartoony, a little exaggerated.
And there's a lot to be said for that because, like I said, I don't buy a lot of toys, but when I do, it's usually a cutesy version.
Yeah.
You know, like there were the little Marvel ones. Like I've got a Spider Woman here somewhere, but she's got like big feet and hands and like big hair, and she's only
And-
like yay tall.
Well, you know what they
And-
recently did for the Disney 100th anniversary? Those were all figurines, weren't they?
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Okay.
With Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, with Super Mario Brothers,
Mhm.
and the Disney 100. This is where it was. This question came inconvenient because at my last job, I was right next to a McDonald's, and a lot of my coworkers were obsessed with getting all the Super Mario toys. But I was thinking you could do chibi style figures that are more in the vein of like, I mean, no articulation,
Right.
but
right.
what was it, like Loyal Subjects or whatever that used to do the
Yeah.
mystery box
That
figures?
had the old
An
loyal
oversized
subjects.
he-
Right.
yeah,
Right.
oversized head, a slightly smaller
Like-
body, but then it
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
stand
Yeah, because I
with
bought
the
this
artwork on the back, so you can display. Yeah,
I just bought this because it was cute.
Yeah.
You know, cost
Oh,
Right.
no,
next to
her holds
nothing.
the
It was
invisible jet. That's
yeah.
great.
She's like playing with it. Yeah,
That style exactly would be great.
yeah,
Do the vehicle
And-
drivers holding their little vehicle.
yeah.
Mandalorian Jedi. Honestly, it is, coworker. You guys should know me well enough by now. I have no shame. If I was hunting down Happy Meal toys, because trust and believe I have, I would admit it.
All right, well, we got to move on. These are coming from Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram. That is the best place to follow us that isn't audiblearmy.com. From Silent Interlude. I know this has been talked about a lot, but O-Ring Ghostbusters are coming soon. What will the next Retroverse, thank you, line be? Also, that Hayatoy's Crocmaster looks menacing, worth picking up for Fiona alone. Who should Hayatoy's next figure be? I vote for Doc or Big Ben. Okay, so a couple of things in here. First of all, what will the next Retroverse line be from Hasbro? That is actually a really tough question because I don't think any of us expected them to do anything else in O-Ring, and then all of a sudden they're dropping Ghostbusters. So you've got to wonder, like, if they're giving G.I. Joe to Super 7, well, not giving, but you know what I mean. If they're giving up on G.I. Joe O-Ring, what other licenses does Hasbro have? I mean, there maybe Power Rangers O-Rings?
No, because they just gave Power Rangers to Playmates.
Well, Playmates is doing them, but Hasbro could still do product.
Mhm.
I'm just trying
True.
to come up with
I just don't
something.
think Power Rangers isn't quite there yet. As big as the fandom is,
Oh my
I think we got
gosh.
a couple more years.
It just hit me. When I was a kid, my biggest problem with Secret Wars was that the figures didn't go with anything else.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Secret Wars O-Rings, which I think we might have talked about on the show before, or I've talked about with my son before, or I don't know. But, oh, here we go.
Yeah. That never crossed my mind until.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that one either.
Mandalorian
would be
Jedi
amazing.
says Exo Squad. And we have talked about like Exo Squad, Battletech, like that kind of stuff before. Exo Squad would be a good one because that is certainly due for a revival.
Exo Squad, that was the ones where they slid down the ropes.
No,
that-
Exo
that
Squad
was Air
was
Raiders.
That was Air
yeah.
Raiders. Okay.
Exo Squad was like mechs,
Okay.
like basically different versions of the alien power loader,
Gotcha. Okay.
but it was a smaller scale. I don't, Swordsman 007 says Exo Squad was discount Robotech. I don't really agree with that because Robotech, like they were very different things to me.
Mhm.
And Exo Squad was Playmates, but now that we have that relationship between the two companies,
Well, Exo Squad was it was Playmates. So
it
I don't
was
know that.
Playmates.
Yeah, but wasn't BattleTech on the market at the same time? Who did that? Or was that just under the Exo Squad banner?
BattleTech was.
But something mech based could be very cool, and it wouldn't be
Mhm.
hard for Hasbro to grab a license on that.
And
As far as
I know
Wild,
Hasbro has tried in the past because they've done these little. I think they've done like. Didn't they put out like a box set that had like a figure from various properties in
yes,
one?
the back when IDW was trying to combine the
Yeah,
universes, we actually talked about. I've got it right over there. I can't reach it right
yeah,
now, but
because it
I've
had like
got it.
ROM. It was like ROM and
Yeah,
Mask.
no,
Mask was good.
well, Visionary. Look,
Yeah,
Visionaries.
Visionaries. Yeah,
Kristian just mentioned Visionaries.
And I
Hasbro
would
could tackle
love
that.
it. I don't know that I would love Hasbro to do it though, because being a child of the '80s, I want the vehicles, especially for the Visionaries. So many of those vehicles were so awesome. I mean, it's one of the few toy lines that I have complete. Um,
Oh wow!
and I guess if yeah,
Hasbro were to commit,
if Hasbro were to commit, and I don't even need the hologram. Like I've seen enough websites
whoa,
that
hold
do
on there, buddy.
no. Here's the thing. That's part of what killed the line is because it was very, very, very expensive to do that. So many of the toys have lost their holograms. So there's companies, like Toy Hacks and stuff that make it look like it did on the cartoon. I would even be okay with
Oh,
that.
interesting. See, I want my '80s holograms. I want it to look like the cover of a National Geographic.
I would love it if they could, but I feel like it would be somebody like Ramen Toys that would
Mhm.
do it justice.
Ooh. We'll have to discuss this further. Hiya Toys, my pick for their next figure is Sci-Fi. Blackout design Sci-Fi.
I would have gone with a Doc if we had not gotten that announcement. So when I saw this, I was thinking like either a Flash or Ice Cream.
Oh wow. Okay.
Now, are there any Joes that have never had figures?
Yes. What is Noel's favorite guy? I can't ever remember his name. The not Breaker, but the other guy.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm blanking.
crap. It's
The
Breaker
other
and Grunt and
no, it's the other
No.
communications guy
oh
that
yeah,
was only only in the cartoon.
Sparks.
Sparks, who
Thank you, Jeff.
maybe got a collector club. Yeah, Jeff Butler got it. Look at that. Maybe had a collector club figure. I'm not positive, but I don't count those. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To anybody who collected those, to me they don't count.
And I don't know. I'm assuming the ones from
JJ Shoulder Height's got a good couple here. How did we not think of Dungeons and Dragons or Cops and Crooks is my pick out of those two?
Yeah, NECA's doing great with their Dungeons and Dragons line, so I don't need them in 3 3/4.
Yeah,
but Cops and Crooks.
Well,
that
and
would be awesome.
Also has a G.I. Joe connection.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Cops and Crooks is a good one because that was another line where the scale was a problem for me when I was a kid because they were too big. New York Night 1974 says, "Cool breeze. Of course we need a cool breeze." All right, moving along. Audible Interlude podcast on Instagram. Todd Brattrud says, y'all maybe already talked about this, but best potential G.I. Joe comic miniseries characters you'd like to see focused on next. I'd love to see an in-depth look at Dr. Mindbender's story. And funnily enough, we have talked about this, and I think, Kristian, wasn't Mindbender your pick?
Yep.
Mindbender is a good one. I think I picked Extensive Enterprises, and I don't remember who my other pick was.
Yeah. I would love to see them because some of the main characters get a lot of the focus. I would love to see like a Spirit story or or Doc's story or Dusty or one of those guys. And it doesn't even have to be like a whole miniseries if you just gave them one issue.
A good one shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see some of those characters kind of get a little chance to shine.
You know what? I'm going to go with Swordsman 007. Raptor needs his own series. I agree 100% because in the same vein of seeing Mindbender go from mild-mannered dentist to psychopathic mad scientist, I want to see Raptor, but I don't want him ever depicted as crazy.
Yeah.
I want him as a dude who just realizes if he wants to hang out with birds, he's got to dress like a bird. He's not nuts. He just is completely reasonable with a blind spot for how other people are going to perceive him dressed up as a bird.
He's thinking on another level.
And I want Michael Keaton to play Raptor.
Man.
And I know that's between Birdman and the Vulture. I realize that's a little bit of typecasting, perhaps.
Yeah.
But that's what I want.
Yeah, but there's a lot of opportunity because some of these characters we've learned stuff about, but between the comics, the shows, and the movie, they all have contradictory backstories. You
Right.
know?
Well, and that's part of what I'm sorry, not IDW. That's part of what Skybound and Image are doing right now is kind of bringing all of that together and creating a new, almost like the Marvel Ultimate stuff.
Yeah, like I would imagine like a nice Baroness spy story. She seems like she would be a nice.
Well, you're going to have the opportunity to read one this summer in June. No, I take it back. Scarlet. You're going to get a Scarlet spy story. Baroness is probably down the road away. Yeah. Scarlet and Destro.
She would be a spy on the other side. Yeah.
Jeff Butler says, I could see them focus on Zartan that the way there was previously a Dreadnought Declassified series. Yeah, I would love to see more on Zartan, but I think we've got a pretty significant thing to reveal about Zartan before he gets his own miniseries. Also from Audible Interlude podcast on Instagram, Daniel Rod 35. Has there been a story covering the last war with Cobra, mentioned by Flint in the Sunbow series Worlds Without End? If not, can Mr. Nash write one? So what he's referencing...
You get them to pay me and I can write anything.
What's being referenced here is Worlds Without End, the two-part episode.
I love that episode. I love that two-parter.
We've often cited it as some of the best G.I. Joe media that's ever been released. And Flint references this last war with Cobra that precedes the events of the alternate universe in Worlds Without End. And I don't know if that's ever been depicted in media.
You know, I can't. I have obviously I've not seen everything G.I. Joe that's ever been published, but I don't think it ever has. But I also remember too when I first saw that two-parter, it was different enough that it stood out from the rest of the G.I. Joe episodes.
Well, it's very, very dark.
Yeah, it's very dark. It's a little more adult than the other ones. And I really dug it. And then, and they basically kill, right off a character, And so, yeah, so it's a good one. I will say this, from your lips to God ears, G.I. Joe is one of those bucket list IPs I would love to crack once, at least.
I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, because I do some stuff like this with the license. I've written licensed characters and media tie-in stuff, and that stuff is fun. There's a lot of what people don't realize is, because I get the question a lot, oh, it's like writing fan fiction. And it's absolutely not, because unlike fan fiction,
you get paid.
Well, no. Well, you get paid so little it's almost like writing. It's the rules. There are more don'ts you can't do, and it's a list.
Right.
Because the people that own the characters have to approve everything, and their main responsibility is to protect that brand, protect that IP.
They want to keep that IP viable.
Absolutely. And so they have a set number of, so you don't do anything, like if there's a massive change to characters, generally that is prompted by the IP holder.
Right.
We want this character to change and become this. Can you guys do that?
Bobby Nash isn't sitting there saying, I've got this great idea. Yeah. Let's turn Lady Domino into a cyborg fueled by nuclear power.
Right. Somebody's going to, I know if I pitch that, they're going to laugh. But if they come to me with it, I can do it.
Right.
Yeah, so so there's a lot of that. There's a whole lot of you almost have to be more creative writing tie-in and license stuff than I do writing my own stuff, because I have to go into it knowing you can't do this, you can't
Yeah.
do that, why and why. Whereas with my own characters, if I want to blow something up, I blow something up. You can't do that with the characters you don't own. And it's my job as a writer to I'm part of protecting that. If I'm going to write, like I just recently did a Zorro story, I go into it very protective of Zorro. I don't want to be the guy that screws Zorro up.
No.
So yeah, because you mentioned earlier the niche audience, they are very on brand. They know when you screw up.
Well, it's almost like the smaller the audience is, the more passionate they are.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Because they know.
Right.
Well, this presents an excellent opportunity for a segue. We have run out of time. We will not be doing a Joe and Tell tonight, but what we will be doing is giving our special guest co-host, Bobby Nash, the opportunity to tell us where we can find him online and what he is up to in the near future.
Hey, if you look right down there, BobbyNash.com is my website for links and everything. You can find all my social media links on there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, all the others.
Hasn't Threads just been ever so productive?
Yes.
My gosh.
Yeah, I spend more time on social media than I probably should admit.
You have to, though. You
but
have to.
It's a part of my job. I mean, it's part of the marketing and promotion and getting out and doing, and it's a lot. Yeah, actually, writing is probably the least thing I do every day as part of my writing job. But BobbyNash.com is where I update new books coming out, interviews. This will be up there. A link to this will be up there, and you can see upcoming stuff. And yeah, that's the main place to find me. My books are available at all the usual places. I have books in hardcover, paperback, ebooks. I write full cast audio dramas.
And when you read a book, write a review.
Absolutely, we love reviews. We don't get them very often, so they're like gold to us. You want to make your favorite writer feel better. That's how you do it.
Jeff Butler says, Bobby, I followed you on IG during the show and bought the Challenge of the Clones book and record just now.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
It is fun. It is a fun listen. That was one of the ones that actually came with the record. I don't have a way to listen to the record, but there are places online that have digitized.
Yeah.
Actually, and there are some on YouTube.
Yeah,
There's
some of them are on YouTube. They're out there
where you can they'll unscroll the book, and
yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice trip down memory lane. I grew up with that stuff. I was an only child until I was 9, and so as a kid, those were evening, playmates, was sitting and listening.
Yeah.
And there's something about listening to them that elevates it to something else, especially as a kid, and yeah. So I learned a lot about telling stories from listening to that kind of stuff. So getting to do it now is really cool.
So everybody check out BobbyNash.com. Kristian, where can we find that toy photography that you do so well?
You can find me on Instagram under the name Legion Cub.
And of course, everybody, please do check out audiblearmy.com. More bonus content than you can handle. We'll be back next week with a new audio episode that you can see video of at audiblearmy.com. And our next live stream is May the 27th with a very special guest. More on that later. Until next time, yo, Joe.
Cobra. 1 is the loneliest number.